The last story I'll share, I promise, but it's a Christmas, it's a wonderful day for stories, is about a friend of Danielle's. She actually works with this person, and she was sharing a story that happened just a couple months ago down in Mexico when she was shopping, and she had to hail a taxi, and she gets a taxi driver, and he had a Christian music playing in his car, and he says, "Oh, hope you don't mind, I'm a Christian." And she said, "Oh, I'm a Christian too," and so they had a little testimonial sharing. And then I think as their kind of openness kind of happened, the taxi driver said, "Do you mind if I share something deeper with you?" And he said, right before COVID, he and his wife had been married 20 plus years, and they had this wonderful love for each other. He said, we wanted to do everything together. We were just one of those couples. And he said, even we talked about when we died, we wanted to go hand in hand into heaven together and see the inner worlds together when that time is. Like we can plan that, right? But they had that great love for each other and that commitment that that's what they wanted to do. But then life just goes on. But he said during COVID, he got very sick and he was taken to the hospital. And after about 2 weeks, he died. So he's talking about a near-death experience that he happened. And he said, I know I died because all of a sudden I left my body and I was in the most beautiful place you've ever seen. He says, you don't understand. Earth is ugly. The cars, everything, it's ugly. But in the heavens, it is so beautiful. And he was just taking it in just because he'd never seen such a thing. He even said, there are colors that you don't even see on earth. And then he looked down at his left hand. There was his wife's hand in his. And he couldn't believe it. They were entering heaven together. And he was so excited and so beautifully moving. And then they knew that they had to cross this threshold. And he heard this voice of authority said, it's not your time. And he said, no, I need to go. He says, I don't even know how to go back. And all of a sudden, he was brought back into the hospital room. He doesn't know how. And he was so sad. First, because he was homesick for that beauty he had seen. And then the second reason, because what he didn't know, that his wife went to the hospital soon after him and had also passed. And he got to handhold his wife and bring her to heaven. And he knows that when the day comes that he has to pass, she will be right there for him and take his hand to the other side. I don't know why that story just moved me so much. But I know this taxi driver was talking to this friend and saying, I don't even know why I'm back. Why was I sent back? And they both had this beautiful dialogue, maybe because the person that was the friend also had a near-death experience. I shared her story one time at an Easter talk. And so it's interesting that Christ found these two people that had a near-death experience. She goes, I know the beauty you're talking about. She had seen it. And what it reaffirmed of their faith of Christ and everything that it held. So for them to have this moment was profound, and she and he were saying, I think it's for both of us just to come back and share with the world how beautiful heaven is. How transcendent, you have no idea. I share this because, my goodness, you don't know what conversations are taking place in this world. This taxi car down in Mexico, right? That happened to be with someone that is good friends with my wife, who then shared it with me, and now I'm sharing it with all of you. Look how the ripple of that just goes out. So we do not know what other things are taking place from the Christ around this world. But I know love, as this gentleman and all know, is like seeing into the face of God. Someone asked Flower one time, what is it about that star? Was it real that the wise men followed way back when? And Flower just began that answer by saying, well, there is some astronomical studies that show there may be something that was there. But she says that's one thing. But there's another inner thing. She goes, do you know the archetype that all the intelligences in heaven were visualizing for the Christ to fulfill on this earth? And she says, those archetypes, they can make tremendous thought forms and archetypes for the ideal of Christ for our humanity. And it is her belief that they created this star inwardly and brought it down to the etheric plane so that those who had eyes to see, you can see in the etheric plane at times, could see that star if needed. And I never heard that before. I thought that was so much beautiful, and it just made sense to me. And then I reminded myself that on Christmas Eve, Christ is coming once again, every Christmas, down to the etheric plane. That star will be shining once again upon this earth. What a beautiful thought for us to take into our Christmas experience. Let it touch each of us who are open to receive him. I'll give you one picture of that star, or at least a representation of it. Let us see that star which lit the night sky and marked where the Christ born be above each of us as we become mangers ourselves to bring in the birth of Christ consciousness. Flower reminds us, this is Christmas, and a wonderful tide of angelic baptism swells through the earth and blesses us individually and unitedly. Everyone whose heart is open shall receive. Those who are burdened shall be freed. Those who need healing shall achieve it.